Dana White just got into it with one of the most dangerous heavyweights on the planet, and this situation is spiraling out of control. Tom Aspinall, the guy who's been knocking people out in the first round over and over again, just called out the UFC president for publicly discussing his medical situation without even talking to him. Dana's saying he did nothing wrong. Tom's saying he felt disrespected. And the entire MMA world is watching this blow up in real time. But here's what makes this even crazier. This drama is revealing the real reason some fighters get protected by the UFC while others get thrown to the wolves. And trust me, once you understand what's actually happening here, you're never going to look at UFC drama the same way again. Now, if you watch the replay, this wasn't some little tap. This was a full-on eye poke that you could see clear as day. But here's where things get absolutely insane. Instead of people showing sympathy or understanding, fans on social media started accusing Tom of faking the injury. Yeah, you heard that right. People genuinely believed he was pretending to be hurt. Tom himself said he couldn't believe what he was seeing online. He's thinking to himself, did these people even watch the replay? Did they see what actually happened to my eye? So what does Tom do? He goes the extra mile. He spends weeks going to hospitals, getting medical tests 2 to 3 times every single week. We're talking specialist appointments, doctor evaluations, comprehensive eye examinations, the whole 9 yards. He's gathering all this documentation to prove that yes, this injury is 100% legitimate. Finally, he releases the doctor's reports to the public. Problem solved, right? Wrong. Instead of people backing off, they doubled down. Now the narrative shifted to, oh, he's doing a media tour about it. He's milking the injury for attention. The guy literally cannot win. He gets hurt and people don't believe him. He proves he's hurt and now he's accused of being dramatic about it. This is the toxic environment Tom was dealing with from day one. And through all of this, Tom still can't train properly. 6 weeks later, he's still going to doctor appointments. He still can't do any kind of combat training. This isn't some minor inconvenience we're talking about. This is a serious injury affecting his career, his income, and his ability to do what he loves. Now here's where Dana White enters the picture. And this is what really set Tom off. Dana starts giving public updates about Tom's health and condition. He's telling the media, telling reporters, telling fans what's going on with Tom's eye. Sounds normal, right? UFC president updating people on his fighters? But here's the problem. Dana hadn't actually spoken to Tom directly about any of this. Tom is sitting there watching Dana give medical updates about his body, his injury, his health situation, and they haven't even had a conversation about it. Tom said he felt disappointed because Dana was already telling the world about his condition without knowing what had actually gone on from Tom's perspective. Dana White eventually responded to Tom's comments, and his explanation was pretty straightforward. He said the UFC had people all over Tom's situation. Doctors, specialists, whatever Tom needed, the organization was providing it. Dana said he was just repeating what the medical team told him. He wasn't making stuff up or trying to downplay the injury. He was simply passing along the information he was receiving from the professionals treating Tom. Dana also clarified that he never said anything negative about Tom at all. He thinks maybe his words got taken out of context, which honestly happens all the time in the media these days. Dana said he couldn't even remember exactly what he said word for word, but the main point was simple. Tom's going to heal up, take some time off, and come back when he's ready. Nothing controversial about that statement. Dana also mentioned that Tom was probably emotional after everything that happened, which makes total sense. The guy just suffered a serious eye injury in a massive fight. Of course, he's going to have strong feelings about it. Dana's position was basically, I wasn't being disrespectful, Tom's upset, he'll heal, we'll get him back in there. But here's where things get really interesting, and this is what a lot of people are missing about this whole situation. Luke Thomas, one of the smartest MMA analysts out there, pointed out something crucial. This drama isn't really about the personal beef between Dana and Tom. It's about star power and where Tom sits in the UFC's promotional hierarchy. Luke said if Tom Aspinall was already a huge star, one of those names that sells massive pay-per-views just by being on the card, the UFC would defend him way more aggressively. When you're a superstar in the UFC, the promotion controls the narrative around you. They protect you from criticism. They make sure you're positioned in the best possible light. That's just how the business works. But Tom hasn't had those massive marquee moments yet. He hasn't had those million-dollar pay-per-view headliners or those viral knockout moments that make you a household name. And this isn't a knock on Tom's skills at all. The guy is absolutely elite. He's been knocking people out in the first round, left and right. But commercial appeal and fighting ability are two different things. Luke pointed out that it takes a long time to become a superstar in this sport. You need the big fights, you need to win those big fights, and you need those moments that capture the mainstream audience's attention. Tom has superstar potential, absolutely, but he hasn't fully reached that level yet. And that affects how Dana and the UFC handle situations involving him. Luke also suggested there might be more to the story behind the scenes. Maybe Tom turned down certain fights the UFC wanted him to take. Maybe he said no to media obligations. Maybe his father's involvement in his career rubbed the UFC brass the wrong way. Promoters can be sensitive about family members getting involved in negotiations and career decisions. Now, while all this drama was unfolding, the conversation shifted to a bigger problem in the sport: eye pokes in general. And this is where things got heated, because multiple big names jumped into the discussion with completely different solutions. Mark Goddard, one of the most respected referees in MMA with over 21 years of experience, argued that the sport needs prevention, not just penalties. He said the problem starts with the glove design itself. If you create gloves that keep the hand in a naturally relaxed state while still allowing fighters to grapple and use their techniques, you'd reduce eye pokes significantly. This would make the referee's job way easier too, because they wouldn't constantly have to warn fighters about hand positioning. Mark made it clear that in his entire career, he's never believed a fighter intentionally tried to poke someone in the eye on purpose. These are accidents caused by styles, timing, and the mechanics of fighting at close range. It's not about dirty tactics or malicious intent. He said the sport is actively working on solutions, but he asked fans to be patient as these changes get implemented across different jurisdictions. But then Chael Sonnen came in with a completely different take, and honestly, it's pretty compelling. Chael pointed out that in wrestling and judo, you have constant hand fighting, constant battles for grips and control, but eye pokes barely happen. Why? Because those sports don't have the same problem MMA does. Chael said everyone acts like fighters never poke each other on purpose, even when the mechanics of MMA make it almost inevitable. But according to him, the real problem isn't the gloves at all. It's the rules, or more specifically, how the rules aren't being enforced. Here's Chael's argument. MMA has three basic rules that everyone agrees on: no biting, no kicking a grounded opponent, and no messing with the eyes. These are called the Big Three because they've been around since the early days of the sport. Chael said if fighters were actually disqualified for breaking these rules, if they lost fights and lost their purses for violations, eye pokes would disappear instantly. His point is simple. You don't need to change the gloves. You don't need new technology. You just need to hold fighters accountable when they break the rules. Start disqualifying people for eye pokes and watch how fast fighters figure out how to keep their fingers away from their opponent's eyes. Chael called the glove debate a massive cop-out and said this is the one solution nobody wants to implement. Michael Bisping jumped in with his own perspective too. He doesn't think fighters do it intentionally most of the time. When you're reaching to grapple or establish control, sometimes fingers just go wild in those exchanges. But Bisping agreed with Chael on one major point. The solution is simple. Teach fighters to keep a loose fist when they're not actively striking. Make it a fundamental part of their training from day one. Bisping said the current fingers up or down rule doesn't solve anything because it's too simplistic for the complexity of actual fighting. His fix? Make a loose fist. That's it. Problem solved. So where does this leave Tom Aspinall? Well, Bisping had some advice for him, and I think it's pretty solid. First and foremost, Tom needs to listen to the doctors and not rush anything with his recovery. Eye injuries are no joke. You don't mess around with your vision. Tom is still young, still in his prime fighting years. He's got plenty of time ahead to accomplish his goals. Some fans are saying Tom should come back raging, drop the nice guy act completely, and start violently knocking everyone out to prove a point. But Bisping doesn't think that's the right move at all. Patience and proper recovery matter way more than trying to silence critics right now with some dramatic statement. But here's what makes this whole situation even more interesting. Chael Sonnen pointed out something that should terrify the entire heavyweight division. Tom Aspinall became a champion and racked up first-round knockout after first-round knockout while being calm and smiling. He's maintained this friendly, likable demeanor throughout his entire UFC run. He's only needed a second round once in his entire UFC career, and he still got the finish. So Chael asked this question: if that's what Tom does in a good mood, what happens when he's angry? What happens when he's motivated by all this controversy and criticism? What does a 262-pound angry Tom Aspinall look like? The answer? Nobody knows. And that's what makes this version of Tom so dangerous. We might be about to see a completely different fighter when he returns. Now, while the Aspinall situation dominated headlines, UFC 313 created its own massive talking point in the bantamweight division. Peter Yan defeated Merab Dvalishvili to become the new champion, and this result shocked a lot of people. Even Khamzat Chimaev, who's usually intense and focused on his own business, showed some unexpected sportsmanship. He congratulated Yan on an amazing fight and wished Merab a fast recovery, encouraging him to come back stronger. That's a rare moment of calm from one of the UFC's most dangerous contenders. Muhammad Mokaev also jumped in to praise Merab, calling him an absolute beast who deserves respect regardless of the result. And Mokaev made an incredible point. While some fighters only compete once a year, cherry-picking their spots, Merab put together 4 title-level performances in a single year. Think about that. 5-round wars, championship weight cuts every single time, the full championship treatment over and over. That's insane consistency from one of the division's hardest workers. Tom Aspinall himself reacted to the fight, and his take was interesting. He said he honestly couldn't see Merab losing anytime soon before this happened. That's how dominant Merab had looked. Even with the loss, Tom gave Merab full credit for his incredible run and said the fight was good enough to warrant a trilogy. From a champion's perspective, Tom said fights this close and technical deserve to be settled definitively. Aljamain Sterling broke down the technical side of things. He said Merab didn't work the body with his hands the way he usually does, and that shift in strategy hurt him in the judges' eyes. Sterling noted that Yan looked way more comfortable in southpaw this time around, especially with the left body kick he was landing consistently. Sterling believes the technical mistakes are fixable once they review the tape together, and he doesn't think this was Merab's best version. Leon Edwards called it a spectacular fight, saying he watched it twice because there was so much to appreciate. He specifically praised Yan's takedown defense against one of the division's best grapplers. And Petr Yan? The new champion marked the moment by saying history had been made. He thanked his family and team for supporting him through all the hard times, dedicating the victory to them. Yan said this win finally put everything back in its right place after feeling like things had gone wrong for so long. What do you think about all this? Was Dana wrong for commenting on Tom's health without talking to him first? Should fighters be disqualified more often for eye pokes? Do you want to see Yan versus Merab again? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, smash that like button if you enjoyed this breakdown, and subscribe for more UFC content.